Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us in this heart-to-heart conversation. This is a presentation from the Freedom Summit series, Out of the Darkness into the Light. I'm your host, Victoria Hart, and today we're talking with Catherine O'Connor. Catherine is a sacred architect and channel of infinite knowledge and divine love magic, working with sensitives, creators, healers, leaders, and change makers who want to connect to their truth, amplify their mastery, bringing their unique voice forward. She creates sacred, committed, nourishing environments, deactivating separation patterns to expansive, multidimensional, authentic self-expressions, empowering efficient, light embodied connections, impact, and resources. Integrating psychotherapeutic understanding with a refined connection to Thoth, aligning and activating an experiential sense of the inner god or goddess. Catherine, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you today.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I took a moment as I was listening to the description.
It's wow, definitely.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It came out well, but I mean, it certainly captures everything that you really offer. And I find that before stepping onto our soul path, we often start out heading in quite a different direction. So I would love to know, what does out of the darkness into the light mean for you? And perhaps you'd like to tell us about a pivotal moment in your life that brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure, Victoria. So first off, it's really beautiful to be here and to welcome and be part of this summit. And it's a topic really dear to my heart. I guess it's been, and really diving in to answer your question, and sort of in the background, just so you know, like the energies are welcoming you as you're listening to this, and really opening the containers, so that you get what you require, like as you're listening. So anything that is said or channeled or energetically, that you receive it in the way that's optimal for you. So diving into the question, Victoria, what it means to me is, for me, it's a journey of compassion. It's a journey of the heart, and it's a journey that each of us is on at some level. And like I originally come from quite a strong psychotherapeutic background, mixed with kind of very strong kind of complementary alternative kind of practices. And so I often talk about the unconscious as being the shadow. So it's that which we don't yet know about ourselves. And as we come to know that which we don't yet know about ourselves, we have the opportunity to bring light into that place. And in bringing light into that place, it means seeing it. So it means recognizing, going, oh, this is something about me that is coming to the forefront that I'm beginning to see, and then bringing understanding to it. And understanding can be, goodness, wow. So understanding, like there's compassion and understanding kind of interweaved in there, but understanding is that first step towards compassion. Often it's like, oh, I understand why this is in me, whether it's in kind of like an ancestral line from parentalhood or parenthood, it's something you experience through childhood or adulthood, or whether it's a past life, or whether it's so I'm often holding that context. And then from that understanding, like as we understand that, it kind of naturally brings in compassion. And compassion or heart is really that key that enables us to to continue to bring it into the light, to accept it, to include it as part of us, to go, oh yeah, that is a part of me. This is who I am. I have this aspect of myself. And that's cool, you know, like, because I understand where it came from. I have this compassion. I don't have to blame anyone for it. I don't have to put it out there as something that's not mine, which is can often be that first step before we recognize it as part of who we are. And then the next step is, so that's kind of like the psychotherapeutic journey. The psychotherapeutic journey often that's where it gets to.
Yeah.
And it's through that compassion we start to kind of release it. So then where the light work or stepping into the light part of it comes in for me. So that is bringing it into the light. That's essentially the shadow coming into the light. And then the next piece that we have the opportunity and we can do, and it's so much more available to us nowadays, the last 20 years, is to then release it back to source consciousness. Go, okay, so this is not really part of my divine self. It's not part of my essence. It's something that I picked up along the way in this period of Earth's evolution and consciousness, where kind of the shadow became almost stronger than, well, maybe not stronger, but became as strong as the light, to some degree or other, that it's not really who I am. Like, who I am is divine. Who I am is this beautiful, extraordinary, magnificent, divine, multidimensional, infinite being. And this is not really part of the true essence of who I am. So it might be an aspect of my personality, or it might be an aspect of my experience on the Earth star, or even in other star systems. Yeah, but I don't choose to carry it anymore, and I will let it go. And that process of letting go can look a lot of different ways. For some people, it might be through meditation. For others, it might be through working with a practitioner. For others, it might be going for a swim or walking along the beach, and it just sort of drops away. So, I mean, that's that for me. And then that for me is that next level of stepping into the light, which is then becoming light-filled. So as the shadow shifts and you become light-filled, then the inner divinity, the inner light really begins to shine. And I think, so that answers that kind of question of what it means to me.
Yes, beautifully.
Yeah. And then if we want to go a little bit deeper, like, I think we're all on this path. So like I know I stepped into this path when I was about 7. I kind of vividly remember the day that I chose, and the kind of the challenge that I met in that moment. But I guess that's never stopped. Like, the soul brings forward, I find, for me, in my path. So my path is very unique, and all those who are listening, all you who are listening, your path will be unique. But I do know probably the thing that has been key in my life throughout my journey is being willing to listen to my heart. And the darkest moments have been when my soul is asking me to do a shift.
Yeah.
Either my soul gives me some really challenging situations, which I just have to face into, and in that facing into, I make the choice. And sometimes it takes longer than others. You know, the more challenging ones takes a bit longer. So the one that I often think about is when I was 22, and I had done half an engineering degree. I'd done a commerce degree in marketing economics. I'd been offered an amazing job. And I'd also been offered a not so amazing job for 3 months overseas. And I took that one,
Okay.
much to my father's absolute charang. After I'd been in England for, I don't know, maybe 6 months, I just knew the job was still in that area. It was still a commercial job. I just knew that this wasn't for me. And it was probably 2 years of feeling like a lot of time crying and a lot of time just not knowing what I was doing. And then finally, I found my passion for that time. And then the doors opened. The universe provided the most extraordinary circumstances to support me to do what I was choosing, because at the time it was what was right for it was what my heart was calling me to do. So yeah, my sense is that when we're in that space, and I've been in that space many times before I make a shift. When we're in that space that's called the dark night of the soul, where like everything is coming up. We're crying, we might be frightened, we might be depressed, we might be lost, we might be not just like we might have experienced something in our lives like a great loss of some sort. It's really important to nurture ourselves through that space. It's really, really important, and to know that there is that it's a process we're in towards the light. And that's where I think people can sometimes get lost, or they can go back to what they know, what you know, and what is familiar. So I think the real key is to just know that you're not alone. Like, look, all of us have gone through it. Yeah, and it's like, hold yourself in compassion when you do meet those times, and know that something will come that will just ignite your heart, and follow it. If I was to leave this world with any little piece of advice, like on my tombstone, would be follow your heart. Just follow it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true, because often the dark night is not just a night.
No.
Sometimes it can feel like it's never ending, there's no way out, and we haven't got that guidance, and we often find that we're very isolated at that time, and we do feel very alone. So what insights might you like to share for those that might be finding themselves in that space of, because it is right that it's like the caterpillar in the what's the word?
The cocoon.
And then before the emerging, you're just in this darkness, waiting to come and spread your wings. And of course, as you mentioned, it might be 1 or 2 or 3 before we start to really find out who we are. And I know that times it can be quite tricky, like recognizing, well, is this my more authentic self, or is this my conditioned self? And you mentioned earlier about, sometimes looping, especially if we're sort of asked to do something that feels very uncomfortable, we might not want to take that step initially. It might take some time. What would you like to share?
That's a really good question, and it's one I sit with quite a lot. Because like in those places, I think you're real. I mean, the first step is, I think you're calling on your inner resources at that point, your resilience. So sort of one key I would say is, if you're not in that place, like if everything's going really well, and you may not have this happen in your life, I think more and more people are coming from, and that's really what I encourage now, is like, follow your heart now. You really don't need those dark nights of the soul in the way that we might have experienced them. The vibration of the earth has shifted, and the energy shifted. So I think one key is build resilience. There's a lot of information out there on how to build emotional resilience and physical resilience. So build that while you are in a good place, because that will see you through a dark night of the soul. If anything, that resilience, the understanding of yourself and who you are, and having those tools and practices in place now, so that when you do hit a rough patch or a challenging place, you've got tools to pull on. So that, I think, is a real key. The second key is surround yourself by people that are really positive. So I think there are lots of different keys, actually, but these are just some that are coming to mind now as we talk. Surround yourself by people that are really positive. And that may be like, if they're not in your physical environment, then kind of find them online, or find groups, or join listen to positive podcasts, listen to positive, just whatever's kind of start tuning into things that are positive. They're gonna uplift you and send you in a positive direction, and also support you and keep you kind of encouraged.
Yes.
The second thing is have compassion for yourself. like you have not done anything wrong. You have not done something that has created this, that you deserve it. You haven't manifested this terrible thing or whatever it is you're experiencing. It's simply the soul's journey. Yeah, it's such a, I don't know.
That's very good advice, because often we can slip into those, spirals of what have I done? Why is this happening to me? So yeah, thank you for bringing that through now.
Yeah, absolutely. If your intention is essentially good, you have not, you know, and I think all your listeners, their intention is kind of like really razor sharp and essentially good. And this is just part of the soul journey. And sometimes your soul calls for things that are challenging so that you do grow. So that's the next piece of advice. The other is like, if you just tune in and see whether you could do with additional support, because sometimes like having a guide in those places and spaces can be so helpful. I mean, it can be, that guide can be a mentor. It can be like someone who's older than you and has gone through something, can really help, like kind of just give you some keys of wisdom. It can be an extraordinary close friend who's in a different place. It can be a practitioner. And I am like, I've always been, it is really where I sit. It's probably why I do the work I do, is I do have an essential belief system that we can't do this alone, or it's very challenging to do it alone. So finding someone that you connect to, that you feel really good about, that like the relationship feels very honest and strong and heart to heart, who can support you in whatever way you need, whether it's physically through body work, kind of emotionally through more, kind of emotional talking, energetically through energetic type work. All of that, I think, really is really, really helpful. If that and again, like I do say, if it feels aligned, if it feels good to your system. But the one thing I can say that is key is sometimes when we're in these dark places, it's hard to reach out. It's hard to reach out or say yes to something like that. So if that's the case, then I would say give it a go. Like have one session and see what it's like. Or check out your intuition somehow. Listen to them for 15 minutes and just go, okay, is this aligned or no? And trust.
Feel it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll feel.
Yeah, and then the other one is trust the universe. So there we go. I'm sure there's lots more.
Beautiful, brilliant, and the resilience that you started off with, I think that's really key. And just little things like checking on our diet, making sure we're eating well and getting some physical exercise, just simple things like that. It doesn't need to be strenuous, but it's just feeding our souls really with the right foods and the right energy to go through that transition. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you bring a really key point, Victoria, that those little things like eating the right food, going for a walk, getting some movement in, those basic nurturing activities. Yeah, so important. Yeah.
Let's lighten it a little bit. So we've traveled a little bit into the darkness. So I'm keen to know, you touched on like an awakening at age 7. But I would like to know, when did you really start to know that you have these divine gifts and what you could offer to others?
I think in my 20s is when I really started being of service, so to speak, to others. So when, like going back to that original story, what I did was I did I'll tell the whole story because it actually has quite a lot in it as well, and answer that question. So I fell in love with theatre, and I came back I'm just cutting the story a bit short. I came back to New Zealand and applied for a diploma in drama. Now, theatre in New Zealand was very, very slim. It's nothing. I had done no theatre, just about. I was shy. And I did a really great interview. They really liked me. And then the audition was come out. I knew nothing about auditions, nothing, zero. And they rang just before the audition and they said, oh, we only have 13 places available and 13 people have applied. So we're cancelling the audition and we're accepting everyone.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my God, because this was a really sought after program. You know, this never happened before or after, like, just as 1 year. So it was like the universe supported me so much that they just knew that, you know, that's what I needed. And then from there, I really took drama very seriously, but I went into more spontaneity and storytelling and clown, and then started to work a lot metaphysically with it through teachers that I met. So I worked in theatre, and then I also worked with people who it was more personal development focused. So it was more focused around using theatre and spontaneity and storytelling to kind of ignite your authentic self.
Mm.
And that's when I started studying psychodrama and psychotherapy and all of that. So it was really that, and that was in my 20s that I was doing that. I was about 26, 27 by the time I was ready to kind of run groups and teach people in that way. Yeah, so that was where I started.
I guess that was where you first started using your voice and finding your voice a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I still like if you're 18 and you're shy and you're bumbly and you're like me, theatre I think is still a really great avenue to start to find all that. It's particularly spontaneity.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, getting into those different roles, which I think would help you kind of uncover part of who you are, because you're trying out different roles.
Well, yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, we don't want to get too much into theatre, but I will just say one thing is that my life and the message I brought through since that time is how to be truly you.
Mm.
So in theatre and spontaneity work, you are being yourself. That's it. You're being yourself. You're naked up there and you are you. You are you. There's nothing else there but you. So yeah, so it's a bit of energy, like the guides are bringing a little bit of energy in around that kind of authentic visibility, like shining your light and letting that be visible and letting that be all there is. You are you, nothing else, just you. All you have to do is be you. Yeah.
So let's shift a little bit, because in the introduction, of course, we mentioned your work with Thoth, and
Yeah.
I'd love to know, you know, how did you get initiated into that lineage? And perhaps for people who are not familiar with Thoth, maybe you'd like to share a little bit about that.
Okay, so Thoth is going to come through. So he'd already started coming through with that last piece. So welcome, my dear divine souls. Welcome to this beautiful platform of Out of the Darkness and Into the Light, and this beautiful conversation that you're having with your master, like master teacher, master, kind of, we'll call her Victoria, but she's really a way-shower and a gate holder. And the beautiful questions that she asked to dive into this topic deeper so that you can really understand who it is that you are and bring the fullness of who you are out into the light. Like, just be willing to show your light and spread your light and be truly who you are, which we call authentic. So to answer your question, this is Thoth. I am Thoth, and I co-create with Catherine in many, 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 many ways. But essentially, I hold the kind of officially known as the holder of the Akashic records. In essence, the Akashic records is the field of Akasha. It is the field of all information. So I hold the key and the codes to all information. I was on Earth in various epochs, most known in the Egyptian epoch. I was here during the Atlantean epochs and many, many other epochs on the Earth star as a way shower, as a light holder. And with that, with channels like Catherine and many other or other light workers, other ascended kind of mistresses, I have been co-creating and bringing to light the codes that together we embedded on the Earth star that are hidden in a lot of these ancient cities. And as we open the doors to these codes, we're bringing through the information that was always embedded on the Earth Star. It was always how the Earth Star was meant to be. I was part of that process of bringing this light to the Earth Star, and I'm very dedicated to the Earth Star, and I love the Earth Star very deeply. So my co-creation with Catherine runs through eons of time, lineages and lineages and lineages. So it's not so much that she was initiated. We were always co-creators and partners, and she is sharing that there have been times in her life when she looks back and she goes, oh yeah, that was Thoth, but at the time she wouldn't have known, but we know to name that. And officially she was like technically initiated through her mentor, Daniel Rama Hoffman. But in truth, we've always been co-creating together for eons and eons and eons.
Amazing. Thank you for coming through. I feel very honoured to have the presence with us today. And I'd love to know more about how this work helps others connect with their guides. And, you know, in some ways, we're all kind of channels, maybe not necessarily always channeling a being, but we're channeling divine information, whether or not we're aware of it or not. And that's helping us co-create our realities.
Well, my dear, this is such an interesting question. So this is me and Thoth. So Thoth really wants to stay in, so I just let him. So the question you're bringing is a really vital question. It's a very important question. And what we would say is that, goodness, guides and mentors and people that you meet on the spiritual path who are either like incarnated on earth or in light, like myself. So I'm about 50% in, like, so Catherine can fully embody me, or she can, like, I can be partly in and partly her. And this is really, we just go with what's optimal. So at the moment it's about 50-50. And this is partly because we know you're directing the questions at Catherine, and I just love to come through, and Catherine loves to channel me. So what we would say together is that this is a real kind of razor sharp passion question for Catherine, because in essence, the guides, we would say, and Catherine would say, that the guides are there to co-create with, to partner with. So whether this work helps you come into a greater divine relationship with your guides, yes, it might. But essentially the work is about coming into a deeper relationship with yourself. So when you come into a deeper relationship with yourself, then you can have a relationship with whomever you please at a much deeper level, whether that be your guides, your loved ones, the Earth Star, acquaintances, people you meet in the street, those in your community. It's through your relationship with yourself that enables you to have a relationship with others. Opening to yourself, opening your heart to yourself, enables your heart to be open to all. So what we would say is that the essence of this journey is about a heart opening to self, an understanding of the self, a flowering of the self into your authentic self. And yes, that will enable a deeper relationship with your guides, but also to really to bring through the information that your guides are always present. And you may not realize when you have an idea, just as Catherine did in her 20s when she was planning her workshops. Like, I was there. She knew that she just knew, and she knew she could hear the information coming in. But she didn't go, oh, that's my guide. She just went, oh, okay, right, let's go.
I did.
Yeah, exactly. So we would say the same to you. You may have an idea and intuitively go, oh, that's a really good idea, I'm going to follow that one. It might be your guides drop the idea in. Yeah, and that's okay. That's really okay. And also to know that guides are there to have a relationship with. They're not there to guide, to tell you what, like, they're not saying go in that direction. They might go, like, we think that's a good direction to go in. But it is a relationship. It really truly is a relationship. And the other piece is that know that you may hear your guides, you may sense your guides, you may just intuitively know what they're saying, you may see them. There are so many ways that you may have an understanding of their presence. Yeah, we could go deeper into other areas, but we feel like we'll just pause here.
No, I like that. Thank you so much. And I think the word pause is just what I was getting, is, you know, to be able to get that guidance, whether it's through just that inner knowing of the direction to take, or like you were saying, maybe you hear something. It's in those pausing moments to really get the next steps. And not, you know, if we're too busy bustling through our lives, we're not always going to be getting those hits quite as clearly. So as people start to awaken more and more to their own light, what sort of opportunities do you see coming, and how will they kind of reflect on the life they've been living up until this point?
So we're taking a pause. We're kind of role modeling, because it's an interesting question. Do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, so yeah, kind of rolled a couple in one, I think. So taking that pause and then starting to awaken from the life that we've been living, and then recognizing that perhaps something needs to change, and then what opportunities then will that shift bring for us?
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, we got the question a little bit better that time. Okay, so there is energy coming in for individuals if you want to pick it up. So you just, like, one way to choose to pick up energy, because we are living in an environment of, like, on an Earth star where choice is one of those key elements. So you may like just say in your mind's eye, yes, I'd like to receive this, the energy that's coming in for each of you. So when we're at a pivotal time in our life and we are questioning whether to make a leap of faith to that next level of evolution, which often requires us to say no to an aspect or something that we have in our life, and then open the door to something new. And then there's that scary moment where we're letting go and we're opening. So there that scary moment, or the anxious, and you kind of not provokes anxiety, and a nervous system can get a bit of a rise. There is a beautiful book that I read in my 20s that I still stand by, which is called Feel the Fear, but Do It Anyway. Very simple book. So that's one message, is feel the fear, like know that you're frightened, or whatever other feelings are coming around. Know, be truthful to yourself that this is how you're feeling, and do it anyway. If you're if your intuition is like going, oh, this is right for me, do it anyway. Now, what can happen is the fear can start to create a shadow over the intuition. It can create doubt and questioning. So that's one of those keys, is like, just keep going. Okay, what's my intuition saying? I'm frightened, or I'm anxious, or I'm questioning, and then deepen into the intuition and deepen intuition. And like, so there is energy coming in around this for individuals to support anyone that's in this process. And then as you do that, start to open out into what the possibilities are from you making this choice, from you letting go the old, or that which is not really aligned for you anymore. And you, in your mind's eye, you may start to be able to just get a sense. And for those of you who are in this place at the moment, you may even want to do this as we're speaking. Just start to get a sense of what it is that you are calling in. Like, what is the possibility? What is the opportunity here that you're opening out into? Like, is it a new career, or a freedom from an old relationship that's no longer of service? Is it a deeper understanding of who you are? Is it like even choosing to shift the vibration of food you're eating? Is it feeling better and healthier? and more alive in your body. You know, oh, so that feels like that's a big one for many of your listeners at the moment. Yeah, so it can be really big things, it can be really little things. Are you choosing to have a child, and how's that going to shift your life? And what is the opportunity? So the fear, you may have a lot of fears around, like, can I financially support them? Will I be a good enough mum or dad? What happens to my career, or you know, my lifestyle? So you're going to be letting go a lot. Like, it can look like that you're saying no to a lot, but then start to shift your focus away from what you're letting go of to what you actually will be creating.
Yeah,
so yeah, really inviting it in. Allow yourself to really start to imagine it. And the power of imagination is extraordinary. The power of visualization is extraordinary. And then also start to, you know, so we're opening up into this opportunity, and then there is lots of physical plane stuff that you might want to just put in place. So, you know, we could keep talking, but we feel like we've just answered the essence of what your question is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what was also coming through for me was around those scary moments that you talked about, that fear, because you know, we've kind of been living in a environment of disempowerment, really, in many areas of life. And so stepping into our own power and actually making a conscious choice of what it is we really want to do, and really have the courage to go in that direction. You know, how could, in that instance, what are some of the ways we can do to make those choices with a bit more ease? I mean, I know you said to face the fear anyway, which actually, I think it's just that initial feeling of fear, isn't it? That's the scary bit. And as soon as you take that step, a lot of it just dissolves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that is so true. The fear is really an illusion. Yeah, it's not real. Yeah, it's part of yeah, there's often a lot of conditioning in there, things that we've been brought up with. And so what's happening is as we're making those steps, as we're breaking through the conditioning, just like when I was in my 20s, you know, I was breaking through the kind of the conditioning that I'd had, that I was going to have a good job and earn lots of money. I mean, I was lucky. I did have very supportive parents in many other ways. But that's essentially what you're doing, is that you're breaking through some of the conditioning. And that, in essence, brings up fear, because it's unknown. You don't know what's on the other side. You've never experienced it before. But you're right. Once you've done those initial steps, like, the fear just disappears. It's like, oh, what was I frightened of? But that's okay. That's okay. In the moment, you don't know it. So in the moment, you do have to just feel it and move through. Now, other things that you can do is so much. Like, I am a real advocate for having a bit of structure as well as having that flow. So have a plan. Like, you know, there'll be the initial stage where probably there isn't a plan, because you may not be able to see the wood from the trees, not be able to see if, you know, 1 foot in front of you. But as you make that step, do research, do create like some ground stones that you can step onto. You don't need to kind of just step into the void and then kind of start creating. I mean, that might be some people's way, and it certainly is my way, or has been my way. And then I create the stepping stones afterwards.
Yeah, even if it's a loose plan, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Direction you want to be going in.
Yeah, I mean, listen to yourself. Some people really do well with lots of research and understanding of where they're heading and what's out there. And other people do really well with kind of diving into the deep end and submerging themselves until they kind of come up for air. So, like, whatever's good for your system, do it. Like, there isn't a right way, is really what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, I personally do really well with diving in the deep end and submerging myself and then coming up slowly, kind of understanding. But I know that I know other other souls who do lots and lots of research. They lay lots of plan, like they lay a really solid plan, and then they make that step, and that's really good for them. But at some point, you do need to bring in that structure. At some point, you do need to have some rails around the creative flow that you're immersing yourself into. So I guess that's another key.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I'm probably a bit like you, where things have just thrown me in, and it's like, okay, I've got to start swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, for me, I think that I learn better that way, and I don't really have too much time to fear because I'm already in it and just having to navigate it. So thank you for sharing that.
It's a pleasure.
Just thinking about, so as more and more of us start to become ourselves.
Yeah.
What does that look like to truly be visible, and how will we start to see that affect humanity as a whole? Like, what benefit will that bring for all of us?
Oh, I love that question. So I think, again, that's been my passion probably all my life, but certainly from when I was 26. So how I see it and how the guides kind of show it to me, is as we step into our authentic self and our true self, much like the story that I told with the theatre and being kind of accepted in without an audition, the universe really spins on its axis to support us, so that we can follow that through. So that's one thing. And actually, that's another key to the question before. Know that you're fully supported. And then as it's spinning on its axis to support all of you to be authentic in whatever way is aligned for you in the moment, that starts to orientate the multiverse into divine alignment. And essentially what you're also doing is you're coming into divine alignment with yourself, and you're coming into divine alignment with the divine and with kind of an authentic divine plan, shall we say. And as you do that, as each individual stands in their own authenticity and their own sovereignty and really owns who they are, it does so many things. It takes kind of any energy that you might be projecting onto someone else away, brings it back to you, so their system can feel much clearer and they can feel much happier and be able to deepen into their authenticity. And as each individual really holds their own space and holds their own truth of who they are and holds all their energy, it provides this extraordinary space for relationship, for co-creation, for truth. And as we then step onto our own path and kind of then allow that to manifest, or we create what we're here to create, like what's really juicy for us, what's really aligned for us, because we're all unique and all individual, what's juicy for me is not going to be 100% juicy for someone else, because each of us is individual. Each of you is unique. And so what you'll find is that real sweet spot that's just right for you. And when you find the sweet spot that's just right for you, that you're creating and doing exactly what ignites your fire and that you absolutely love, which is essentially what you're here to do, then what happens is all the things that aren't essentially for you to do, someone else can do them. And that someone else that does them, that might be in support of you, or that is their juicy bit. And that ignites their fire and allows them to grow. So what starts to happen is we have a community, an environment, a world, a family, systems where each individual is really, truly standing in their own authenticity, their own power, doing exactly what's right for them. And then we have this opportunity to create a community, an environment, a workplace, a world where we're all supporting each other and bringing through that which is optimal and good for the earth as well. I don't know if you can get the full picture, because it's really, in some ways it's challenging to speak about it, but that's essentially.
I think you said that really well, really coherently. And the first thing when you said about, we're kind of projecting our energy onto people. And of course, when we see all the disruptions going on in the world out there, what starts to happen then when we shift our energy and pull it back onto ourselves and start living from in here to out there rather than the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, at the microcosm level, like at the just the one person level, that's unity consciousness, what I call individualized oneness, where you start to own your shadow. And if we bring it back to the shadow, and you start to own your light. So it is possible to project your shadow, it's possible to project our light. So we start to own both. And that frees us up because we're owning. And it frees the other individuals up because they're owning. It also means that we don't get caught in other people's dramas. We don't get so easily triggered because we know our stuff, or if we do get triggered, we know it's us. So if you feel frustrated by something, then that's an indication of something inside you that's a wound, possibly, that is asking to be healed. It's not an indication of what the other person's done wrong. It's speaking, telling you about yourself. Yeah, and at a macro scale, like we won't see civil unrest. We won't see war. Because all of that is the process of projecting our frustration and anger out.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's such a key, and I feel that we are really on a learning path. The whole of humanity has been on that, and really since, I mean, this information started coming through in the 1800s, in the late 1800s.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, it did. Like through, yeah. But just a few individuals started talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, that is a gem of wisdom there, really, for us to really start to, and going back to what we started with very at the beginning, was having that compassion for ourselves when we do get triggered, and catching ourselves so that we're not throwing this energy back at someone else and we're just lashing out at each other, and before we know it, we don't even know perhaps what even triggered us in the first instance. So I think that's really key for where we are in this planetary transition that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. I mean, obviously there's that key of compassion and heartfelt consciousness and staying positive and bringing in the light and all of that. That is also part of that process.
Yeah, well, recognize that that's what's happening. Actually, when we see another being triggered, perhaps we can have those moments of pause and recognize that, oh, hang on, they're experiencing their stuff right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. There is something that they've experienced in their life or in past lives that's getting brought to the surface. And that's a beautiful point, to hold compassion in those moments for others.
Yeah, the more we can do it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit more about your gifts. So I know that you speak some light language, and I'd love to know more about Divine Temple. How did it come about, and what is it, and how do you take people there?
Yeah. So Divine Temple is both a physical space. So I am in New Zealand. So Divine Temple is a physical space where individuals can come and receive the session, the transmissions, the calls. And then Divine Temple has a Zoom platform presence as well. So we do a lot of online as well. And so I'm going to just let the guides come in and just give you a little experience, sort of just a few minutes. And I'm not sure what they're going to bring through. So I'm going to just let them take off so that you get to experience what we do. And then I'll go a bit deeper in how to
Perfect.
Okay. So welcome each of you to this beautiful call where we will co-create with you a sacred space. So essentially, when we work with you in Divine Temple, co-create sacred space, and then we deepen into whatever is most aligned for you to help you shift out of the darkness into the light. So that's one aspect of our work. And then the second aspect is we bring through many multidimensional programs. So these multidimensional programs will both align and activate your deeper light and bring you even into greater resonance with who you are as a multidimensional being. When we speak of multi-dimensions, we speak of the higher planes, the lower planes, the cosmic planes, the divine planes, however you might like to interpret it. But essentially, it's who you are at a deeper and broader level. So we'll talk more about those programs, but first we want to just give you a little bit of an experience. So Tina atai ina rana tika aka aka ne kiai. So we open a universal stargate of authenticity. Tina ashata ina ahake, since a lot of this conversation has been about being authentic, being who you truly are. Tina asha tika aka aka ne ti asha naka aka aka ne kiai, and we offer a individual stargate over each of you who is listening. If you wish to receive the opening of an individual stargate that has this essential theme of authenticity, Tina rana ti aka, simply say in your mind's eye the number 5. Tia ashana rana tika aka aka ne ti tia rana she tika aka aka ne tina ashena aka aka ne kia. So the light language at the moment is working to open up these stargates. So light language is a form of sacred geometry. It's being spoken. Tina asha ki aka aka, and as it's spoken, it also forms patterns. Na asha tina rana ki aka. It is the language of light. Tina asha ka aka, and the language of light and love. Tina asha ti aka aka ne ti asha tika aka aka ne ti tiana aka. So those stargates have opened. They'll stay open for the next 2 hours. Tina asha ka aka ina rana tika aka aka ne kia, and then they'll naturally close. They're there to bring in any aligned energies for your system to support you to come into a deeper understanding of who you are. Tina asha ka aka ne ti ta rana ta asha kia. As we open this conversation with the concept Tia asha ake of recognition, of recognizing tia asha ake, any of the shadow aspects or any of the light aspects, because often you hide your light. Tia asha aka ake ne kia aka, you're unconscious to your light. Tina asha kia aka ake ne kia, and you spend a lot of time deepening into like the shadow, what it is that you need to release. Tina ashaka aka aka ne kia, and we celebrate this, and we also celebrate you stepping more into recognizing your light, your magnificence. Tia asha aka, your ascended mastery or your mastery. Tia ashana rana aka aka. So we open Tina ashaka aka, an energy stream of consciousness that is both to assist you to recognize any shadow aspects and any light aspects. Tia ashaka aka. Now the light aspects is that which pulls you forward. Tia shinarana tika aka aka ne tia ashina aka. And this is brief. We're kind of speeding through this. Isanarana aka aka ne tia. And then we bring through codes of understanding. Tina ashaka aka, that you begin to understand that which you're receiving. Tina ashaka aka aka I tia rana tia ashina aka aka ne kia. And then compassion, Tina ashaka aka, compassion for all those aspects of yourself that are beginning to be ignited within or that are returning home. Yishanarana ti aka aka ne ti shi aka aka ne kia ashe ne tia, opening the heart. Compassion for the self. Ishara ne tia ashe tika aka ne tika ne tia ashe na aka aka kia. And then inviting the ashaka aka I ashanara aka, the activation of authenticity, ti ashanara aka within yourself, ti asha aka at the level that is aligned for you in this now moment. Whether it just be a kind of like a small taste, whether it be something a bit fuller, ti ashanarana aka aka ne ti shina aka aka ne ki asha ti aka aka ne kia. And then a sense of what it is that you are being invited to shift or change or do as part of your next evolution in your own life. Tina Ashika. Okay, this may drop in as an insight, an aha, a feeling. Just know that it's happening. Don't try, like, you don't need to find, you don't need to search for it. It may just unveil itself over the next few days. Just know that we're just dropping in some energy to support your system for those of you who are kind of looking for that next step. Yeah, okay. So one of the keys is you don't need to look. There's nothing to do here. Beautiful. You just receive at this point. Tina ashika aka aka ne ti tiarana aka, and just releasing any fear you have around the subject. Na ashika aka aka ne ti ashe, just releasing that to the light. Tina rana shaka aka aka ne ti. So as that process just continues in the background, Ashika Aka, just bring in integrated light to support you to integrate it, and know that that these stargates will stay open for the next 2 hours, so you continue to receive information and also receive energies to how you integrate this. Tanarana Ti Ashika Aka, so just place a kind of like an integration vortex around you as well. So although this has been short in terms of time, it may have been very potent as well for many of you. Tina ashika aka ake ne kia. So this is just we brought this in as a way to give you an experience of the work we do. The work that we do is essentially to bring you, to assist you to align to the truth of who you are, and to help you shine that extraordinary light in the way that's aligned for you, and for you to step into your next level of consciousness and evolution. And we do that through one-on-one programs, working one-on-one with you, and we also do it through group. And the group have particular activations and ways to really ignite your divine light. Yeah, that is possibly goes beyond what we have the space for right now.
Beautiful. Very powerful. Really felt it around my solar plexus area. And my throat, my voice is just gone, so perhaps I was receiving something around the throat area as well. And also like a sense of lightness, you know, even if we're going through some difficult, challenging times, actually that high energetic transmission and a language that we can get out, you know, we're not, it distracts us from, you know, trying to figure things out with our mind. It kind of lifts us up a lot easier than if we were trying to logically navigate our way through.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Vision.
So as we come to the end of our time together, Catherine, just would like you to maybe share if there's anything more that you would like to share that we haven't spoken about so far, and perhaps you'd like to share also about this beautiful offer, beautiful invitation to work with you more deeply. Divine.
Yeah, sure. So I know that there's a free gift as part of the summit, so do tune into that free gift. It's a meditation. And then there are a couple of special offers. So one special offer is a group program. So it will be a group transmission of approximately 90 minutes. And we will deepen into we will deepen into the area of visibility and alignment. So being authentically visible, so moving from kind of like hiding to feeling really comfortable with being visible with who you are. And the part of that process will also be working with alignment. So those are the two kind of like the essence of that group transmission. And I love the groups. I find group really, really potent. Yeah. So,
yeah, bringing your energy together and all supportive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then offer B is a special offer on a one-off session. And that I think is kind of like so that is a 60-minute session with me and the guides to align you to the truth of who you are. That's a process possibly of release and activate and bringing in the light and just bringing, so a little bit similar to what we've done, but different as well, because it will be tailored specifically to what you require at that time. So it's offer B, and then there's a third offer where you can kind of combine both and really, really enjoy both, which I think would be amazing. So those are the two offers that are on the altar at the moment.
Thank you. Amazing. Wow, I think definitely the right time, to really jump on something like this, to really start to shine your light. And as someone that has a history of hiding, I think we all want to feel that. Just get to start to feel what it is to be us and to shine our light with no apologies.
Yeah.
And start to uncover more and more of who we can be and how much more our experience opens up for us. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real key to living our fullest life, is being visible now with our authentic self.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you also for Thoth to come in. And just really enjoyed listening to the wisdom that you shared. And I know for myself, I just feel more expansive, a sense of expansiveness and just openness as we've talked through the shift from the darkness into the light. So thank you.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. It's been. So Thoth is here. Tina atai iarana ta'aka. It has been a pleasure to be here to co-create with you and to witness. Ta shanara aka ake ne kio, with love from our hearts to each of you. Tina rana aka ake ne ti ka ashe ne kio. And thank you from me, Catherine. It's been an absolute pleasure being here.
Amazing. So I've been speaking with Catherine O'Connor, a sacred architect and channel of infinite knowledge and divine love magic. So thank you for listening to this heart-to-heart conversation brought to you by theconsciouscreationcoach.com, empowering you to create a new story of your life.